Cheers. Mmm, tasty. Um, yes, I unfortunately got some lip balm that actually had color in it, but I didn't realize, and now my lips are colored. So I'm gonna have to go go back to using just moisturizer. Yeah, it's one of those things. See, what people don't know is there was a drug, I believe. Oh, started with R, maybe. It was, anyway, what it did was, if, it'll come back to me. In 1998, I was a teenager with pimples everywhere, and they had this drug because the other ones didn't work. So they had this super drug, and what it did was it was some sort of hypervitamin A. I don't know, whatever it was, and it would shrink the pores in your skin and then cause all of the acne to disappear because the bacteria and the oil together couldn't exist because you basically shut your pores. But what it did was it um, turned one's skin permanently, or seems to be irreversibly dry. And so in the dry seasons here, you get this type of issue. G'day. And that has happened. What consequences of 1998 and being an acne-faced teenager, and what happens in the end. Does anyone remember the name of this drug? Because I believe it's been banned, and I cannot remember the name. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to get off this live cast and go, ah, yes, that's right. It was whatever it was, and I just can't remember the name. Anyway, so as a consequence, as always, we talk about consequences and domino effects. Even 27 years later, we have to put lip balm on, which resulted in me accidentally buying one with color. It said strawberry flavored. I didn't say strawberry colored. What are you going to do? Anyway, lovely to see you. To see you was lovely. I was originally going to talk to you about a shitload of information, which I might try to do right now. I was very lucky that I started reading at age 3 because I had a mother who was quite remarkable in that she would read to us. And after age 2, I thought once I started playing the piano, she noticed at age 2. And then at age 3, when she was reading to me, I thought, you know what, I'll take over. So somewhere between 3, 3.5, I started to read. And I was very lucky that she had a wonderful library at home. No phones, no such thing as internet back then, of course. G'day, Ramin Zaharar. And it allowed me to read. Hello. And read and read and read and read. Now, over the years, of course, as now with our phones and now with AI, we can get books to read to us. We don't need audio websites. And so my reading has substantially increased. It started between 2010 and 2000 in early 20s. It was YouTube lectures. So just listening to hours and hours and hours of lectures on every single topic my brain could grab its hands on. And then, of course, now that we have books that can be read to us, we can just download books, feed them straight into the AI and get it to just audio talk to us. So it's allowed me to even listen to mathematics books because it converts the mathematical symbols into actual E in 1800 into actual words. So instead of there's no audiobooks in mathematics in general where if you're trying to listen to something like postgraduate differential equations or non-local equations. Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, you're Leonardo DiCaprio. Nice to meet you. Okay, Maria Estermore. Hi. um, and as what were we going to say about the yes? So they can't read to you because how's it going to convert divided by or times or whatever. So but now with AI you can do that. So now I've been able to study whilst going to uni every day, different things like Ziedler's advanced topological analysis and continuation theorems and the generalized homotopy invariance and all these type of amazing things that you can't do by audio before today. So it's like accelerated one's learning, and the force multiplier is just remarkable. So I've walked away after 3 weeks being able to understand chunks of these books on topology, where normally you'd have to sit for 2 or 3 months to actually go through the text itself, where now you can hear the text and go, hold on a sec, what did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? What did you mean by this? And then you just keep upgrading your knowledge faster and faster and faster and faster. And for some reason, it seems to work, um, maybe especially more in the case like someone like myself or anyone else who sort of was diagnosed with ADHD, me late in life, but others might younger, where it's very easy to lose attention, but it's very easy to focus when your brain wants to focus on something. So when I was younger, it was computer games, and I was obsessed. Sometimes I'd play 3 days without sleeping as a teenager, which was not very good. But now it allows me to focus on mathematics for 2 or 3 days. But obviously, someone now a bit wiser set up systems better. So now I can actually go to sleep. Uh, like you regulate yourself to know, okay, you must sleep now, then you get up early. So it's great. You sort of become your own parent in that way, where in one's 20s, you don't do that. You just keep going because screw it. I don't have parents. I can do what I want. um, but then you're like, oh, consequences. So those things don't happen until ew. Those things don't happen until you sort of live long enough to have these consequences happen. So you might do crazy things for like 5 or 6 years, and then you realize 6 years later, oh, okay, so back then by doing that I ended up here. Okay, maybe I'm not going to do that. Oh, maybe my parents were right in that degree. Oh, that sucks. That means if I have kids, then they're going to look at me going, oh, and I'm going to be telling them because I know better. The same cycle continues. What are you going to do? So yeah, the reading was formidable. G'day, Michael Arnold. Pleasure to see you. And who else? Someone, Karis Tuttle, has written. I can't tell if that's a funny comment or a stupid comment. I can't even tell. You'll have to add something so we can find out whether you're actually quite gifted or taking the piss. We'll see. We'll see what happens in a moment. Anyway, the coffee's done. So I was actually going to talk about the amazing, intricate details of living in a time of Yitzhak Rabin, and then his murder by an extreme religious zealot from, I think, the Kach party, which I think was motivated, ironically, in the US. Uh, yeah, and the amazing times and different interpretations I've had over the years of Pesach, or the Passover, and how what it meant as a younger person, what it meant as one as older, then even someone even older, and you derive different layers of meaning over and over each time. So what's interesting is that not only do you get these deeper layers of meaning, but you see people born 20 years later who are now talking about it in a lower dimensional format in the way I would have. And you start to see that the cycle keeps continuing, and that we humans over time forget what we've learned in many respects, and so repeat processes, but they play out to their extremes because of our inability for nuance. And so what we then see is that consequences which may have resulted 20 years after the initial problem get seen by 2 or 3 generations later, and then say, oh, we can't do that again. But it doesn't learn the meta pattern. So when Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, and then we had the rise of the new version of militant supremacy, Aufpog, predictable primates. I love that. That is so catchy. Predictable primates. Um, when Netanyahu, people talk about Netanyahu now. I remember being 15 and Netanyahu came into power, 16, and I became obsessed with reading about it. And it was very interesting because you could start to see the very different interpretation emerge of our Canaanite history, which was very quickly turning into something called Semitic supremacy. And growing up, you start to oscillate between these things. You start to test these ideas. Hold on a second. You know, does this happen? Then you start to notice that it's happening in other places as well. So it's this idea of Semitic supremacy or white supremacy, or or ethnic supremacy or nationalistic supremacy, or exclusionary behavior, when they get fused together, and then you add power to that dynamic, and how those evolve everywhere. It's not necessarily about one place. I notice it in Canaan multiple times. So I know that my direct ancestors had the same issue, and it resulted in the mass murder of Palestinians. which at the time I don't think I even knew about. I actually found out by someone who was against the Maronites. So many people probably haven't heard of the Maronites, but I would say they're your northern Semites, is an easy way to explain it to Westerners. But I found out from someone who was their enemy about the nasty things that they had done in the name of that sort of ethno-religious construct. And it was quite shocking to think, oh, how can I be a part of this blindly and not have known about this? So that was the first. I was 19. That was the first time that I even thought it was possible to question one's own identity. And so it becomes easier to forgive extremists. When I say forgive, I mean there were extremists who murdered my, some of my family and my cousins who were quite young. And how do you forgive? Well, you can't forget, of course, but what it does is that when you meet someone who you connect to the ideology which murdered your family, it takes an intense amount of effort and practice and years of study and self-examination and the understanding of humans as to how to not directly connect someone possessed by an ideology to the other person who murdered your family. Now, the thing is, the people you meet who are under that ideology, if they were in the situation that the others were in, they would have murdered my family, yes. So in that way, it's very easy to collapse the argument into saying, oh, therefore they're guilty by association. But another way to see it is, as Alf Pog is bringing up, predictable primates, is that people can be possessed by ideologies and not actually even recognize that it's happening. And I know the experience. So, when I was shocked out of my own identity, a blind version of it, back at 19, the ego is strong. Yeah, yeah. And so I realized, well, because I was guilty of it without even knowing, just by being born into a family that had that knowledge, and the same thing, they were under the same influence, that you realize that it's possible for anyone to be trapped in that way by a gravity that they can't see. So I think the danger is when someone says they can't be trapped by that gravity, because I think ironically that's when you become trapped by that gravity. So the question is, how do you find a resulting identity? And it's quite interesting because you end up creating a mosaic, nature versus nurture. Alf Pog says nature versus nurture and the ego was strong, for those watching the replay. For anyone who doesn't know, Alf Pog was a wonderful contributor, like many of the original team, back on Periscope many years ago. And it's quite funny to talk about that, because Periscope grew and we thought it was a fluke. Well, I did anyway. And after Periscope got shut down, I took a break for reasons I won't get into yet. And now we're onto YouTube, and it's happened again. It's ridiculous. We were joking about having 2,000 subscribers, and now it's 7,500. And it's just hard to process, because we're not really talking about anything that is mainstream, that is clickbait, that is anything that would be of major interest to the mass population. But look, it seems that there are enough of a subset that want to think about things in a different way. So welcome. Here is your place. All right. So we were talking about the different identities. Yes. So what I've learned to do now in my 40s, Alf Pog says, I love you, Gab, and your brain. Well, I tell you what, it takes one to know one, my friend. So it says a lot about your own brain. So thank you very much. What I've learned to do, and I didn't realize this until right now, actually, and now I'm talking to you guys, is that I learned to make a network of a mosaic of people from seemingly different regions and different identities, yet all think in the same way. And in a way, that sort of creates another identity, a new sort of identity, which instead of being a group, like, in a circle that everyone sort of thinks in the same way, it's the method of thinking, but we all end up in different parts of the world. So the people with whom I've become quite close, for example, they tend to be people who, no, I'm not going to say 10 because they're all quite different, but I'll pick some. So, for example, one of them is from South Canaan, where I'm from North Canaan. Now, for those of you who don't know, South and North Canaan was originally one place, but in the Bronze Age split. And over time, over a long period of time, it diverges into North as Christian, South as Jewish, and then you get then Christian then becomes partially Muslim, partially Druze, partially Armenian, Catholic, Orthodox, Arabic, non-Arabic. I mean, it just becomes a mix of things. But out of each of these places, it's North and South, and like myself, some are Semitic, some are Arabic, some are Christian, some are Muslim, some are Jewish. What I tend to find is that all of us who are connected in this way think in the same way, that we've had the experience of stepping outside our own immediate identity, and we recognize that in fact we're actually connected outside of that illusion. So I remember when I started learning Hebrew, and as I was learning Hebrew, I noticed that it was very similar to the spoken language of Lebanese. Now, I had learned Arabic before that, and Arabic is very different to Lebanese. Um, and I thought to myself, how is this happening? Why is Lebanese closer to Hebrew than Arabic in many ways? And so I then went to study a number of years later Syriac. Now, Syriac is the language of the end of northern Canaan, right? So let's just say North Canaan, and it's related to the language that was spoken in Galilee, etc., 2,000 years ago, which itself evolved from indirectly from Phoenician, which was the original northern Canaan dialect before Proto-Semitic. Now, Phoenician and Hebrew, how's it going? In Arabic, it says Qasyar Bu'i 7Z. Okay. Hi, how's it going? Good, thanks. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so Phoenician and Hebrew, were both descendants of ancient Semitic and Canaanite and Proto-Semitic. So anyway, so as I started learning Syriac, I actually freaked out because I'm like, hold on a second. Syriac is almost identical, not identical, but like almost the same language as the Hebrew I was learning a few years before. I started learning Syriac in 2017. I was learning Hebrew in 2012, and I learned Arabic in 1998. So I noticed what's going on here, and you start to know these amazing connections. So once I became, I mean, as I had a very close friend of mine who was Hebrew and still is a close friend, and it was quite fascinating because now I'll speak to him in Syriac and he will respond in Hebrew. And they're so close that it's almost like speaking between Italian and Spanish. But you can also see, it also explained where Lebanese came from, because I then realized, well, hold on a second. You can now see that Lebanese, in fact, the underlying language was Syriac or Aramaic, and Arabic was put on top. And that explains why Lebanese still had so much of its Aramaic underneath, and which is why it was so close to Hebrew. And it explained the question I had in 2012, but I only figured it out in 2017 when I learned Syriac. So you get to experience over time, living long enough, these connections that you can then talk about in a YouTube channel in 30 seconds or 18 minutes. And it's quite beautiful that the brain can do that. It sort of compresses time into a space in which it almost doesn't exist. And then you are able to extract these patterns that become invariant across time. And you get to see them evolve. It's just quite fascinating. So what that does is it actually, for me, it makes identity borders bleed away. So I recognize which country from you. Australia, my friend. I am from Australia. Lovely to meet you. Anyway, as I was saying, it makes the identities bleed, and once they bleed, you can't come back from that. The borders. I don't mean bleed literally. I mean that the borders bleed away and they become quite diffuse. So you start to realize, oh, so it's not that I'm from here and you're from there. It's like, oh, we're actually connected, and then someone later has put this fence between us, but the connection is still running underneath the fence. And that's probably the concept that keeps me and my close circle connected. It's that concept that despite fences, the roots still connect underneath the fence. So thank you for helping me work that out, guys. By talking to you, it allows me to come to these ways of compressing ideas into a couple of sentences. When you read my letters, I feel happy. Oh, thank you. Okay, so I thought you were joking. So that's actually your name. Sorry. So everybody, I was reading some Arabic letters here. It says Qasyar Bu'i 7Z in Arabic, which makes no sense. And I thought the person was taking the piss. It turns out that's actually their name. I don't know what that is. That might be Persian, or it just might be random letters. I'm not really sure, because Persian use Arabic script, but it's a completely different language. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you guys later. Pleasure to see you. See you is a pleasure. And until next time, one smack at a time. Excellent. Bye.